there are some dots on the map of world geography that are belonging to another geography. All the consecrated churches of the world that have angels looking after them are set apart and do not belong to normal geography. They do not belong just to man. They are extra-territorial. Their owner is the Supreme High King, and in them he exercises his full rights. He has his way. He has his court. The angels. And therefore, when we come into a place like this, we need to behave accordingly, remembering the passage where Moses saw something strange and drew near to see what it was, and heard the voice, "Put off thy shoes from thy feet, for the ground on which thou standest is holy ground." St. Faustina was passing in a train, and she noticed that the angels of these churches actually bowed to her own angel. That's interesting. But there is a whole invisible world in the house of God. Indeed, yesterday I was quite moved when I heard from somebody who was here on retreat, who would have particular gifts, obviously, that she had sensed and felt the presence, and she insisted of a very large number of angels around the altar. That was during Holy Mass, and she was there by the altar on the ground. And it's interesting that these gifts are given sometimes to some that we may have the benefit thereof and listen. It's also something that makes one reflect. If one is responsible for a part of the universe, small though it may be, that belongs to heaven, then what must be the care and the custody thereof? Nothing should be spared. Cleanliness and order, everything spick and span, and no human voice, no jarring note, either in conversation or in badly executed liturgy. Care for the things of God, lest the ears of the angels be offended by our badly sung liturgy. There are then places which have a consecrated church or a chapel, but which also, by extension, have that part of the geography around it which also is claimed by heaven, a monastery. And there are some monasteries which have a whole area. One thinks of the likes of Meteora in Greece, high perpendicular rock formations with mountains on top of them, as close to heaven as one can get, even physically, with the world far down in the distance. No traffic, no communication, no television, no recreation. And then, bigger still, the whole of Mount Athos, that peninsula in the Chalcidice in Greece, claimed for centuries by Almighty God, and well kept, uncontaminated by the noise and changes of this world. Hagihoros, the holy mount, where myriads have been formed to sanctity under great austerity and simplicity. What has worked still works. There are also in the West places of uninterrupted prayer, monasteries great and small, where God has his claims over humanity and geography. When one enters a good monastery, one feels something of that. Pax, peace, otherness, a certain serenity and unhurriedness, and an absence of clamour and noise. And so one comes closer to home, and home is the body in which the soul abides. And all that must then be protected by the body, so that when it arrives at the soul, all that protection has had its effect. If, on the contrary, the body engages in what puts on noise, what emits noise, the mouth, and then the ears and the fingers that might touch a machine that would put on noise, or a gadget that might have many communications, noiseless but nevertheless noisy in their impact, then the body itself is not a good monastery for the soul. It is not doing its job. And no matter what the protection is with regard to the building outside, if the soul is not protected by the immediate of its own envelope, the body, then the soul has to struggle with the world still too close, even though it's living within a geography which is extraterritorial. The body must be commanded by the soul so as to protect the soul. The soul, after all, can't cope with all that might be coming at it, and doesn't have to either. How many souls are their own worst enemy, having to have all straight away with regard to information and communication, and passing through life not doing what perhaps matters. Too many matters for the great matter to be discussed. I thought of all this and wrote with regard to this little place here, where Providence has, to the bishop, given a part of geography for heaven, and only asks for one thing: gratuitous praise and worship, love and reparation, and also quiet healing of souls through confession. Not noisy, but simple. We make of simple things unnecessary complication. We are only here once. What do we want? More of the same thing, or the privilege of gazing into the eyes that made us and having lots and lots of time for love. To Hagionoros, the Holy Mount. There is a place on earth where all the earth afar is held, where man alone may walk. Alone, I say, alone. Where deeds of worth alone in days are done. Where little talk of little matters, little may have room, for heaven fills the air. And where the sky is virgin blue, the hue of distant gloom clouds not the path of angels that draw nigh. O Holy Land, this is where I would stand. This is where I will stand, for angels too walk here, e'en where I am. And this, the hand that fashioned Athos, quiet Erin knew, and bids me bar a little more their home from demons that mid seraph wings would